beautiful thing. It grows to the quiver of a fife that sings. I can take it with the wave of my hand and place it upon my music stand. Such a beautiful thing. Such a beautiful thing.
Thank you, Reverend Tony. Appreciate it. Well, hello, everyone. It's always, for me, it's a great privilege and a great honor to be able to have the opportunity to speak. And I also just want to give always a big thank you to Reverend Tony, who does a lot of the talking. And so we appreciate that. Reverend Peter and I, help out once in a while, but during softball season, it's a little bit more challenging for us to be available to give talks, and Reverend Tony always steps up and be able to do it. So I'm grateful that I was able to make time today to give a talk, because it is such a beautiful opportunity to be able to share my thoughts as I use the course, and as it continues to help me, navigate this world that we actually, are in regarding that aspect of it. And also, I just want to also just put a quick plug and say I'm in a pretty good mood because Carlos Alcaraz won at Wimbledon today against Novak, so that made me very happy. I got up at 6 a.m. to watch it this morning, so that got my day started off really well. Little sleep, but hey, I was thrilled to see that happen. Regarding an aspect of it, because I'm loving the new generation coming up, because I think it's always good to, new generations to take over. So that's exciting. So one of the things I always do, I always turn it over to the Holy Spirit, just to ask the Holy Spirit for guidance on what is it the Spirit feels, for me to be able to talk about. And one of the things that it kept coming up was regarding forgiveness. And as we know, forgiveness is a big part of the course. And also it's something that I know for me, for myself, that's something that I always continue to work on and continue to, evolve from, and really get a better sense and understanding of, what that is, regarding, forgiveness. And as we know, you can go into so many incredible directions when it comes to forgiveness and what that's about, and how do you, go about it regarding that aspect of it. And then for me, the thing it just really came to my mind is to, really, talk about and process about forgiveness, among ourselves, but also this world we're in, but really about forgiving ourselves, regarding an aspect of it. And the reason why it really stuck out for me this time around is I have a good friend of mine who's in a 12-step program. And so they were doing their step 9, which is making, amends. And so one of the things is they wrote amends to themselves. And then they asked if I would be able to, listen to them, as they read their amends to themselves. And when you think about it, when you're making, amends, you really are actually forgiving yourself at that moment. And so being able to be in that space and to listen to this individual, share their amends to me, it was one of the most powerful, inspiring things I think I've heard in a long time. Because this individual really allowed themselves to go into a deep way of really learning how to, in essence, to forgive themselves and to actually to start loving themselves. And so it really made me and helped me shift and, reflect and realize, wow, how incredible it would be if I actually take the time to be able to do that as well, to make amends to myself, to get to the point of, loving myself and forgiving myself for the things that I have, done in this world that we are in. And so it was just a very, very powerful thing that I, went through. And fortunately, I'm, involved with a spiritual practice, A Course in Miracles, that does talk about forgiveness a lot and helps me to be able to shift and change my, frame of mind regarding that, aspect of it. And so it's a very beautiful and very powerful thing for me, regarding that aspect of it. And so one of the things that the course said that David read very well, which I appreciate, thank you, is the real world is the state of mind in which the only purpose of the world is seen to be forgiveness, fear is not its goal, and the escape from guilt becomes its aim. And the thing that came for me that when I was thinking about that, it really is looking at the state of mind, and how, for me, it's learning how to shift that and seeing it in a different way regarding an aspect of it, especially when it becomes towards forgiveness. One of the things that I was struggling with for a while, and I think I may have mentioned it several times. I know I mentioned it in my on our Thursday class with Reverend Peter. Regarding I was having a big issue with my deputy director. We were clashing in a way that was not good. To be open and honest, and transparent regarding that aspect of it, it was hard. It was really, really hard to work with this, individual, and and it made me realize that I really was in my ego mind. That at times, literally, when I would had to go into meetings or interact with this individual, my stomach was in knots. I got myself so worked up with this individual. It was unhealthy. It wasn't feeling right. And then I realized that I had to shift and change and see things differently, and that I had to figure out a way to forgive this individual, because in my mind, I felt like this individual was causing harm, was doing things that just didn't feel right, and just did not sit well of the way how I go about, doing things. And so I was projecting all this stuff, onto them. And I had to learn and shift and change and find a way to, forgive this, individual. But it got so bad that we had to bring the director of our department in to help us mediate between the two of us. And that meeting was intense. It was a very intense meeting. And yet, I had to remember and take a step back. And as the Course says, the value of forgiveness is perceived and takes the place of idols, which are sought no longer, for their gifts are not held dear. In order for me to be able to change and shift my mind and to learn how to forgive this individual, I actually had to go back and forgive myself. I had to forgive myself for all those thoughts I was having, all those negativities that I was having. And by doing that, I was guided to just bring Holy Spirit into the space with me, with my deputy director. And it was amazing how things have become a lot easier, a lot stressful. And yet, the most important thing, at least in my mind, is I was able to start modeling for the staff that I supervise, because they were in those meetings with me and and our deputy director, and I was not modeling, good behavior at that time. But then they saw the shift of how I started interacting with them, and that's what it is. We have a spiritual practice that helps guides us and allows us to be able to model for others regarding that aspect of it. Yes, things happens. Yes, things comes up, but being able to bring Holy Spirit into my space with them has changed things. Even to the point, the deputy director, came up to me and asked, are we in a good space now? And I honestly was able to say, yes, I was in a good space with them. And that's because I learned how to forgive myself, and I was able to forgive them for the things that I appeared of what they did. It was my own appearance of what they did. And when I was able to do that, it made things a lot much better not only for me, but actually for the workspace that I was in. And the other thing that I realized when I, think about, forgiveness and, not only about thinking about forgiving myself or forgiving this, other people regarding that aspect of it, is how do we go about, specifically me, go about, forgiving organizations or companies or anything that we peers that is not doing well or doing things that we appears that is not loving or healing or anything regarding that aspect of it. And how do we go about, doing that? And that's something I had to deal with also earlier during this year. Earlier during this year, my family went through a huge tragedy where I lost my niece at the hands of the person that she was seeing. And that was a very hard thing for my family to go through that we're still, going through. And so learning how one to forgive this world and to forgive spirit and God from taking someone at such a, young age is one thing to, process and to figure out how do you do that aspect of it. But then the other process of learning how forgiveness is when you're working with a organization who you see is not coming from a loving, caring space, and seeing that this organization is coming in their mindset all about money and not taking care of what they're supposed to be doing. The Course tells us, not yet is heaven quite remembered, for the purpose of forgiveness still remains. And for me, I had to find a way to allow myself to shift and to change and to see this organization in a different light. Because it was hard. Because when someone makes their transition and when you lose someone, and then the organization, in my mind, specifically an organization who deals with death, is supposed to bring a sense of empathy, a sense of support, and a sense of helping that family feel comfort during a hard time. And to have an organization not do that, it was hard. It was hard. But as a course person, as a course student, I had to dig deep inside of me and find a way to be able to forgive them and also to find a way to forgive myself from all those thoughts that I was putting towards them. And I'm grateful, one, that I was able to be there and help support my sister and my family through this time, but also very grateful that others have stepped up and helped support us through that. Especially, Reverend Peter, who took the time and went to the service with us as well, which me and my family was always grateful for regarding that aspect of it. And then I was guided from the Spirit to just write a letter to the organization and just express it in a very loving way of what took place. And just the sense of release that I felt after doing that, because I was coming not from my ego mind, but I was coming from my spirit mind in a very loving way. And for me, that is a sign and opportunity of forgiveness. When we're able to communicate in a very loving and healing way, even when things appears to not happen in a way that we think that they should, when we're able to do that, then we know that we're coming from a good place. And for me, that's what it was. Listening to Spirit, having Spirit guide me to do it in the way that Spirit knew was the right way to do. Yet everyone is certain he will go beyond forgiveness, and he but remains until it is made perfect in himself. learning how, giving ourselves permission to be able to let go of any apparent grievances towards any organization or anyone. That's given us in that space of being able to see the light, how things really are. In my mind, we don't have to allow ourselves to stay in a place where appears to be darkness or a place that appears to be sadness or whatever it is. We are able to allow ourselves to shift and see things differently. And as course students, this is a way for me to be able to continue to model, even in times of apparent tragedy, times of period of sorrow regarding that aspect of it. And allowing ourselves, and then also forgiving ourselves when those initial thoughts comes up that are not loving, and remembering to go back and love ourselves and forgive ourselves for those thoughts. It's not always easy, yet each and every one of us has the skill set and the willingness and the openness to be able to shift and change that. There is a there is a hope of happiness in him, so sure and constant. He can barely stay and wait a little longer with his feet still touching earth. Wow. There is hope of happiness in him. There is hope and happiness in each and every one of us. Hope and happiness in this world that we are in. There will always be challenges coming towards our way. Yet, I have faith and belief that we are aiming in a direction that is so powerful and so healing that we're able to do that. And we're doing that by learning how to forgive ourselves and learning how to forgive this world that we are in. When we're able to do that, we're bringing light into this world that we are in. The final step is God's, because it is but God who could create a perfect son and share his fatherhood with him. Another incident that took place, for me, this year, that I continue to work on, continue to find ways of learning how, once again, to have forgiveness. As some of you know, um, and I mentioned earlier that Reverend Peter and I are very big in our softball league. And then an incident happened where, a player, said something that was, that created some harm towards the appearance of harms towards people, regarding our league. And so we all had to make a decision on what to do, regarding that aspect of it. And it was so interesting to see how quickly people mindset went to punishment. And that surprised me. I thought, at least in my mind, and especially in my community, with everything that we've been through, that we would know how to come from love and compassion. And yet, their first thought was punishment. And for me, knowing that I'm a course student and I come from a different perspective of how I see things, it was a challenge. It was a challenge for me to go through this whole process of seeing other people coming from a place of their ego thinking and not a place of spirit and love. And so then I had to figure a way out of how to learn how to forgive them learning how to forgive the situation, learning how to forgive myself because I felt like I did not bring my true voice to the whole thing. That I, as a spiritual person, understands about forgiveness, understand about giving people chances, understand about not throwing someone away, understanding that it's about bringing love to each and every one, even when we make mistakes. Because one of the beauty is we can correct those mistakes. And I felt like I didn't allow myself to bring that part into it. And so I had to learn how, and I continue to learning how to forgive myself for that and understand that all I need to do is continue to bring my truth to myself. Even the real world has a purpose still beneath creation and eternity. Even the real world has a purpose still beneath creation and eternity. By allowing myself to forgive myself in that situation is allowing me to forgive individuals, even individuals in my own league, and understanding and realizing that not everyone is in a space that we are at, and that it's important for me to realize that. And all I can do is to put my best feet forward and to show my true self by modeling what forgiveness is about and bringing that to the forefront. And as we know, when we're able to manifest that, things still start changing, things still start shifting. And it's just important for me to remember that and to have faith and to understand that it takes time. And taking time is okay. As we continue to navigate this world that we are in, as we continue to have appear challenges that comes up for us, the one thing that I'm continuing to remember when it comes to forgiving ourselves and forgiving this world that we are in is that we take the time to first forgive ourselves. When we're able to forgive ourselves, it's opening us up to be able to forgive others in this world that we are in. And that is my thought.
A flower is a beautiful thing. It grows to the quiver of a fife that sings. I can take it with the wave of my hand and place it upon my music stand. Such a beautiful thing. Such a beautiful thing. The world is a marvelous show.